but it's a pretty cool car.
All right, y'all. I have to explain this to y'all. This is something I feel like, because I was so frustrated with this, it needs to be acknowledged. I need to make sure that you guys also know that this could be a problem. This could possibly be your problem. As simple as it is, and I'm just gonna walk you through what I've learned diagnosing this car myself. I like electricity, I like schematics of circuits because I just like to follow the routes. I like to follow how it was designed, how it's getting power, how it's working, how it's communicating with another thing. I love that stuff. So I did the hard work for you. Basically, if you got an 05, a 2002 through a 2002 through a 06 Honda CRV, you're probably gonna have the same geometry or geometry of transmission and drivetrain, as well as the schematics of the circuits. Okay, same fuse panel and everything, I hope. Getting to that, the issue is the car wouldn't start. The car would not start. It was intermediate though, right? So sometimes it would start, sometimes it would start beautifully, sometimes it would start rough, sometimes it wouldn't even have enough juice to start. I don't know. I don't understand what the issue was, honestly. But what I discovered was I took my multimeter out. Super valuable to have a multimeter, y'all. It saves you a lot of time. You can get really down and dirty to the issue. You can really isolate the issue to a certain area, and that's really what it takes to diagnose a car. You know, sometimes you just got to dive into it. I mean, it's not rocket science for everybody. Anybody can learn this stuff. But basically what I did, I'm not going to go through how I set up the multimeter, but when you're checking for volts or milliamps, you're basically connecting the positive to the circuit, right? So I'm connecting the negative, which is the black side of the multimeter, the black cord, to negative, right? Or a ground of some sort anywhere in the car. You can just ground it anywhere in the car, you know, because actually the battery grounds to the car. As you can see, it's grounding to the chassis. Steel is not the best conductor. Sometimes when it get rusty, you start running into dumb issues. That's just what happens. That's why it's important to keep your cars in good condition, y'all. But the negative, when I tested it with the multimeter, sorry about that, I tested these separately. So I actually took these off and I tested the circuit between, sorry, let me take it back a step. No, I tested volts. 12 volts was coming on both sides. I tested there was 12 volts coming from the alternator wire, or sorry, the alternator wire is here, and then the starter wire is here, or battery wire is here actually. So this white wire is actually coming straight from the battery. This is actually a 2-wire connection, it's not 1 wire. It was a 1 wire, but they turned into a 2-wire. So, or I think I actually did when I was modifying this with this brass connector. But then when I wanted to check for continuity, because I wanted to see if these are actually broken or not. It's really hard to tell by the way these are designed. I'm not sure what a broken fuse looks like, right? So I took these off, simple with these 2 screws, 2 Phillips screws, took them off, and I tested with continuity. They were perfect. Not a 1, but just 0. Okay, so that lets me know that there is good connection for those, right? Then I tested continuity from the starter, or from the battery to the fuse box, right? Reading good, ones. I'm reading 12 volts from here to here on everything. So I knew for a fact this was not the issue, okay? Now I'm like, okay, how about I go inside the car? So I go inside the car. And from what I understand, the relay applies the additional power to maintain the current from the starter, right? Or from the ignition, right? So basically when you're turning the key, the relay clicks, right? The relay is energizing and providing the power it needs to start the starter, right? Which is going from the trigger wire, right? So this trigger wire right here, yeah, so this trigger wire is the same exact wire that goes straight to the starter on top with the little pin. So taking consideration that if you're having connection issues down there, which I'll get to that because that was actually the issue, then you're actually having connection issues up or you're either having connection issues up here. So this is a good way to test it. Instead of poking this, since this is already available, it was only like 2 screws on mine, and I pulled it down, I was able to access it. You can access the actual pins on the back. You see these like connectors right here? I just tapped it right there. I was able to see what kind of voltage I was getting. When I turned the key to the 3, because this black with white stripe wire only engages or only energizes when the key is on the start position, which is the 3. Okay? When you pull back from the 3, it doesn't energize, thanks to the ignition switch, right? That's all the ignition switch does. It applies the power to the right position, which is that white and black wire for starting purposes. I'm still going to replace this ignition switch because this is an old car. It's got 366,000 miles on it. It's just due time. I don't want to have an issue in a different time. On top of that, I replaced this relay. They were only $10 online, and I got 10 of them. So I got plenty of relays that I need for the future, or on any other car, or any other purpose. I also have another relay for that. It's the taillight fuse, or it's a taillight relay. So let me throw that in right now. So yeah, that's the taillight relay. It's also pretty easy to get to. Honestly, with the new relays, when they go in, they're pretty secured. So what I did was I broke the tabs off, and I just decided to just kind of, sorry, I got big hands, so this really sucks. Yeah, so I broke that relay housing a little bit so that I can put the relays in simple like this, right? Because screw all that, yo. Like, I'm not doing all that struggling stuff, right? I just want to be able to put something on there, clamp it and pull it out, okay? And I'm going to try to figure out something I can get for that I can keep in the car so that I can just do a quick swap without fucking, excuse my language, with damaging all this crap, you know? After I realized I was getting power and the relay was energizing, I went back to the starter, because this is the only thing that starts the starter from the inside, is this, okay? The energizing comes from that relay. If you don't hear that relay, or you can put your finger on it when you start it. When you start it and it doesn't click, you have a relay issue, okay? You're either not getting power to this relay, or you're either not getting power to this relay, or the relay is just straight up defaulty, okay? So now I came out, right? So I'm like, what the heck? What is going on? I'm getting power from the inside everywhere, even from the ignition switch. I checked the starter again. So what I did, I had to take off the intake again, because I actually put everything back together. Well, I don't know why I did that without trying to start it first. And I got back to the terminals. The terminals look brand new. The starter is a brand new starter. It is not a remanufactured starter. I do not believe in remanufactured ignition products, okay? That's my preference. I do not want issues down the line. I want to try to prevent them as much as possible, but with preventative maintenance, okay? With that being said, I made sure that with these terminals, I'm like, okay, it kind of slid off kind of easy, right? So I'm getting kind of concerned, and I'm like, well, if it slid off kind of easy, that's probably a telltale of there being an issue here, okay? Because when it comes to electricity, I mean, although like you can touch a metal piece anywhere, you don't really want it to be a loose fit, okay? Like when it's a loose fit, it jiggles itself, or it shakes itself in a bad position, and then all of a sudden you can't get power to this circuit, right? And all of a sudden you have intermediate issues, and it's hard to diagnose them, because you're like, oh, well, I'm reading continuity, but yeah, you're reading continuity, but you're also having a problem with the actual connection between components, right? So I grabbed that, took the tip, squeezed them down so they're a little bit tighter, and when they slid on this, so they don't really slide, I just push them on there. When I pushed it on there, okay, so more secured, I'm getting all the voltage. Now it's not going to wiggle when a car is driving out of position, right? Because that's what happens when your car wears, or whatever you got going on with the car, it wiggles other components loose, okay? And that's just unfortunate, but that's just what it is. I'm also going to put grease on this, right? Because I want this to work flawlessly. I want this brand new starter to not be an issue down the line. So I'm going to make sure I put some grease on here to make sure that I don't have any starting issues in the future, okay? because who wants to do all this? All right, straight up. Who wants to do all this? I mean, if you're not me, you're not other car guys that just like getting down to the dirty to the bone and figuring out where, you know, where the issue arises and all of that, then I mean, let's do the job right one time if you're gonna do the job, you know. Like, I believe in anybody can do this kind of work. Okay, that's just how I feel. You know, I started with not knowing anything. So with that being said, just taking consideration that if you're having started intermediate issues and your car is not wanting to start for whatever stupid reason, okay, and you're kind of concerned to like, why is this not wanting to start? This makes no sense, right? Why am I having connection issues? Why am I not able to crank in the middle of the cold? In the heat, you can probably crank a little bit easier, but when it's hot outside, when it's cold outside, it makes the electricity a little bit more, makes the electricity work a little bit harder to get connections, right? To conduct, right? So that's why you have outages, right? On these houses that have outages, right? And this dielectric grease on here, so I'm gonna slide this on there when I'm gonna additionally tighten it a little bit more. I just wanna make sure it doesn't back off for whatever reason. And then I'm also gonna put dielectric grease on this one as well. Just kind of make sure that connection right there where it's been pinched against the actual pigtail, it's nice and secured and it's not going to get corroded. Okay, I don't want any issues like this. I don't want to be going through a flood and have to worry about, oh my god, like I'm losing connection, whatever, blah blah blah, and my car just hydroplanes, all, you know, like I don't want to have to worry about all this stuff. All right, hydrolock, none of that. Okay, I want to be able to drive this car day and night wherever I need to go and move on with my life. All right, this is a daily, this isn't my race car. I don't care about doing all this extra work. I don't mind doing it though, okay, because I know this is what it takes to get things done right and fixed right. This is why we take our cars to the dealership. But a lot of times those people are just like us, you know. They do either a good job or they don't do a good job. That's just what it is. If they know what it takes to do a difficult job, you might deal with someone not wanting to do the job. That's just unfortunate. So now, all right, that's on there, nice and secured. Yeah, so basically the issue that I had with this car and why it didn't start, no matter how much I replaced, it wouldn't have fixed the problem. The problem was the connection. The starter, the original starter, was old, and that could have contributed to it not wanting to start and being intermediate. But that connection from the trigger wire, from the inside of the ignition wire, if you're getting power from the inside of the ignition wire when you turn the car on 3, your issue is that trigger wire, okay? So you need to go to the trigger wire, which then eventually I will go down here and redo this pigtail, okay? I'm gonna redo this and make sure that I put a gold terminal, a gold one on here, because I don't want this weak conducting stuff to happen in the future, okay? I drive this car year long. I drive the car in the winter. I don't want to have to deal with this again. So take consideration that your trigger wire and your power wires are getting power, and if they're not, I'll probably start there. If you're not getting power to the starter from that starter wire, that's a problem. If you're not getting power when you turn the key on to that trigger wire, there's your problem, okay? It's not as complicated. That trigger wire does not follow to the fuse panel from what I see. I didn't take off all my looms because I didn't feel like it was necessary because the wires look so good. But that trigger wire just follows straight to the inside to the ignition, key ignition. So I'll start there. Start from the inside, see if you can figure it out, see if you can figure out there's getting power from the inside. I showed you how to do that. You just go from the back of the connector and you just make that connection with your multimeter, okay? And then diagnose it straight back to the source.